Every single morning you wake up, you're given a choice. You can start your day rushed, anxious, and disconnected from purpose. Or you can start it grounded, centered, and aligned with something bigger than yourself. That choice begins with a morning prayer. A lot of people think prayer is complicated. They think you need the right words or the perfect setting. But the truth is simpler than that. A morning prayer is just a conversation with God about what you need, what you're grateful for, and what you're asking Him to help you carry through the day ahead. When you pray first thing in the morning, before you check your phone, before the world starts pulling at you, something shifts. Your nervous system settles. Your mind becomes clearer. You're literally rewiring your brain to look for God's presence instead of problems. You're training yourself to see mercy instead of judgment, blessings instead of obstacles. The science backs this up. Studies show that people who practice morning prayer and gratitude have lower cortisol levels, better emotional regulation, and higher resilience when things get hard. But more than that, spiritually, you're inviting God into your day before anything else gets a chance to. You're saying yes to His mercy before you say yes to anyone else's demands. Here's what most people miss about God's mercy. They think it's something you have to earn, or something that shows up only when you're in crisis. But mercy is available to you right now, in this moment. Whether you've been perfect, or whether you've messed up 1,000 times. It's not conditional. It's not something God rations out. It's infinite, and it's waiting for you to acknowledge it. When you start your day with prayer, you're not just asking for things. You're acknowledging that you're not in control. You're admitting that you need help. And paradoxically, that admission is where your real power comes from. Because the moment you stop white-knuckling your day and start trusting God with it, everything becomes lighter. The blessings you're looking for aren't always the big dramatic things. Sometimes they're the small mercies. The unexpected text from a friend. The way a conversation went better than you expected. The strength you found when you thought you had nothing left. These are blessings, and when you start your day praying for them, your eyes open to see them. A lot of people wait until things fall apart to pray. They wait until they're desperate, until they've exhausted every other option. But imagine if you started before the crisis. Imagine if you built that relationship with God when things are normal, so that when hard times come, you're not starting from zero. You're already in conversation. You're already practiced at turning toward Him instead of away. The morning prayer we're about to walk through is designed to do exactly that. It's structured to help you acknowledge God's mercy, ask for His guidance, express gratitude for what you already have, and invite His presence into the specific challenges you know are coming today. It's not long, it's not complicated, but it's powerful, because consistency matters more than perfection. Over the next few sections, we're going to break down each part of this prayer. We'll look at what you're actually doing when you pray each line, why it matters, and how it changes the way you move through your day. We'll explore how to make it personal to your situation, your struggles, and your hopes. Because prayer isn't one size fits all. It's a conversation between you and God, and it should reflect your real life. So let's break down what that conversation actually looks like. The first thing you'll notice when you start this prayer is that it doesn't ask for things immediately. It begins with gratitude. Thank you for the night you survived. Thank you for the breath in your lungs right now. This matters because gratitude rewires your brain before the day even starts. You're not approaching God from a place of lack or desperation. You're approaching from acknowledgement. You're saying, I see what you've already given me. Then comes the part about mercy. Lord, have mercy on me today. This is where most people stumble. They think mercy is something you ask for when you've done something wrong. But mercy is bigger than that. It's God's decision to treat you with compassion, even when you don't deserve it. Even on the days when you'll make mistakes. Even when you'll lose your temper or speak unkindly, or fall short of who you want to be. You're asking for that buffer before the day begins. You're asking to be held with kindness. Here's where it gets practical. After you've thanked God and asked for mercy, you name the specific things you're walking into. If you have a difficult conversation scheduled, name it. If you're facing a health concern, say it out loud. If you're worried about money or your kids or your job, bring it into the prayer. This isn't complaining to God. This is being honest. This is saying, I'm not pretending everything is fine. I'm bringing my actual life to you. Then you ask for strength. Not strength to be perfect or to never struggle. Strength to stay grounded. Strength to remember who you are when things get hard. Strength to respond instead of react. This is the part where the prayer becomes your anchor. When you hit that difficult moment later in the day, your nervous system already knows the prayer. Your mind already has the words. You can return to them. The blessing part comes last. You're not just asking for things for yourself. You're extending that same mercy and strength to other people. The people you love. The people who frustrate you. The people you've never met. This shifts your entire perspective. You're no longer isolated in your struggles. You're part of something larger. You're part of a community of people all trying to do better, all needing grace. What makes this prayer powerful isn't the exact words. It's the practice. It's doing this every single morning before you check your phone, before you hear the news, before the world starts making demands. You're setting your internal compass. You're telling your mind and your body that you belong to something bigger than your to-do list. You belong to God's mercy, and that changes everything about how you move through the hours ahead. That's why the words you choose in those first minutes matter so much. They're not just nice thoughts, they're declarations. When you say, Lord, I thank you for this day, you're not performing gratitude. You're actively rewiring how your brain processes what comes next. Studies show that people who practice gratitude in the morning experience less anxiety throughout the day, less reactivity, more resilience. But here's what makes a prayer different from just thinking positive thoughts. Prayer invites God into the conversation. You're not just talking to yourself. You're acknowledging that you need help, that you can't handle everything alone. And the moment you admit that, something shifts. Your shoulders drop a little. Your nervous system calms down, because you've just handed off some of the weight you were carrying. This is where many people get stuck, though. They pray, but they don't wait. They rush through their words and jump straight into their day. But mercy isn't something you grab and go. It's something you sit with. After you've spoken your prayer, give yourself even 2 minutes of silence. Not to think about anything in particular, just to listen. To be present with God's presence. You might feel nothing. That's okay. You might feel a warmth or a sense of peace. That's okay too. The feeling isn't the point. The point is that you've created space. Space for God to work. Space for your own soul to remember what matters. Then before you move into your day, ask for one specific thing. Not a long list, one thing. Maybe it's patience with someone difficult. Maybe it's wisdom for a decision you're facing. Maybe it's just the strength to be kind when you're tired. When you ask for something specific, you're no longer praying in abstract terms. You're making your faith practical. You're saying, I need this today, and I believe you can provide it. And then you move forward with that request on your heart. Not anxiously, not desperately, but with intention. You'll notice something throughout your day. When that difficult moment comes, when you're about to lose your patience, you'll remember. You'll remember that you asked for patience this morning, and that memory alone will give you a choice. You could react the old way, or you could pause and try something different. That pause is where grace lives. That's where God's mercy actually shows up in your real life, not just in your quiet moments. This is how a morning prayer becomes a morning practice, and how a practice becomes a way of being. You're not trying to be perfect. You're not trying to earn God's favor. You're simply starting your day in alignment with what you actually believe, with what you actually need. And that alignment is what carries you through. That alignment is what carries you through. Because here's what happens. When you pray with intention in the morning, your nervous system settles. Your mind stops racing through the day's demands before you've even had coffee. You create space between the stimulus and your response. That space is where freedom lives. When you acknowledge God's mercy first thing, before checking your phone before the anxiety hits, you're essentially telling your brain that you're not alone in whatever comes next. That's not naive. That's neurologically sound. You're priming yourself for resilience. Think about the person who wakes up in panic mode. They're already behind and already stressed. Their entire day is reactive. Now think about someone who takes 10 minutes to pray, to breathe, to remember that mercy is new every single morning. They're not immune to hard things, but they're meeting those hard things from a different place, from ground instead of from freefall. The prayer doesn't change what happens to you. It changes what you bring to what happens to you. Your presence, your clarity, your ability to distinguish between what matters and what doesn't. And this matters because you're going to face real obstacles today, real disappointments, maybe real loss. A morning prayer isn't a magic shield, but it is an anchor. It reminds you that your circumstances don't define your worth, that God's mercy isn't dependent on your performance, that you get to start over every single day, no matter what you did yesterday or what you failed to do. This is why consistency matters more than perfection. You don't need to pray for an hour. You don't need elaborate words. You need to show up. You need to let your soul remember what your mind forgets, that you're held, that you're guided, that today is a gift, not a test you have to pass. When you make this a practice, something shifts. Not overnight, but gradually. You notice you're less reactive in conversations, less resentful about inconveniences, more able to see other people's struggles with compassion instead of judgment. Not because you're becoming a better person through sheer willpower, but because you're regularly remitting yourself to something larger than your own ego and anxiety. The mercy you're asking for in prayer becomes the mercy you extend to others. The guidance you're seeking becomes clarity you can actually offer. The blessings you're grateful for become things you notice more of throughout the day. Gratitude compounds. It's like interest on your spiritual account. And that's the real power of starting your day this way. It's not about getting God to do what you want. It's about aligning yourself with the way things actually work, with the reality that you're dependent, that you need help, that acknowledging that need is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the beginning of everything that actually matters. And here's what happens when you start living from that place. You stop fighting reality. You stop pretending you've got it all figured out. You stop burning yourself out trying to control everything. Instead, you show up each morning and you say, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm ready to receive what this day actually holds for me. Not what I demanded. What's actually here. That shift changes everything. Not because God suddenly becomes more generous, but because you become capable of seeing the generosity that was always there. You notice the person who listens, the opportunity that appeared, the moment of unexpected peace in the middle of chaos. These things were always happening. You were just too busy demanding something else to see them. This is why the morning matters so much. You're setting the tone before the day hijacks you, before your phone starts buzzing, before your to-do list starts screaming, before other people's needs and expectations start pulling you in 12 directions. You're claiming that first quiet space, and you're using it to remember what's actually true, that you're not alone, that you're held, that there's a reality bigger and kinder than your anxiety about what might go wrong. And yes, hard things will still happen. You'll still face real problems, You'll still make mistakes. You'll still feel afraid sometimes. A morning prayer doesn't exempt you from being human, but it changes your relationship to those things. You're not facing them as someone who's entirely on their own. You're facing them as someone who's already acknowledged their dependence, someone who's already asked for help, someone who's already opened themselves to receiving it. That's not magical thinking. That's actually how resilience works. People who survive difficulty aren't the ones who white-knuckle their way through alone. They're the ones who stay connected to something larger than themselves, to other people, to a sense that their struggle means something. A morning prayer is how you build that connection before you need it most. So tomorrow morning, before anything else happens, take 5 minutes. Find a quiet space if you can. Say the words that matter to you. Ask for what you actually need. Acknowledge what you can't do alone, and then listen, not for a booming voice from the sky, but for that quiet sense of presence, that knowing that you're not starting from zero, you're starting from a place where you're already supported. Do that consistently and you'll notice something shift, not in your circumstances necessarily, but in you, in how you move through your day, in what you're capable of noticing and receiving, in your ability to stay steady when things get hard, in your sense that you're part of something that makes sense. That's the gift of a morning prayer. Not answered wishes, but a different way of being. A way that's actually aligned with how things work. A way that's rooted in reality instead of denial. A way that's open instead of closed. Start there tomorrow. Just start.